I honestly feel like the Kansas City Chiefs this year are the team that they were trying to be last year. I think that the way they're built with a great defensive line, they have playmakers on defense, and then obviously a great offense. That's what they were trying to do last year, but didn't fully get it together on defense. However, I think they have fully gotten it together, and they are the team that they want to be, in my opinion. That being said, they're going up against a pretty good Houston Texans team, a team that has beaten the Chiefs earlier this season. They beat them in Week 6 when they played each other by a touchdown. Although what I think is interesting is that without Titus Howard, who is now going to be hurt, he's not going to play, which definitely is a big blow for the Houston Texans because I think he was really good. That could be a big blow against this Kansas City Chiefs defensive line. And so let's just jump into what makes this Kansas City Chiefs defensive line so good. And I think it all starts with Frank Clark. I mean, he's the guy they made the move for this offseason to go out and get, and he has not disappointed in my opinion. He is a really good player. And like this play, for example, that's going to be his matchup that you see on the screen. It's just a one-on-one matchup against the left tackle. This is where he thrives, and what's really unique about what Frank Clark does is how quick he is. He's just such a fast guy, similar to D Ford, the guy they got rid of, except Clark is more of a complete player than Ford is, but Clark also has that speed, and watch how quick his first step is going to be here. I mean, he takes a couple of steps, and at this point, I mean, if you notice the left tackle, look at how close his left hand is to Frank Clark's left side of his body. He would want it to be all the way to the left side of the screen, to Frank Clark's right side of his body, his shoulder area preferably. But it's just, he can't get that far because of how quickly Frank Clark can move. And because Frank Clark is so strong, if you don't get the good hand placement, he can just blow by you, which is what he does, and he's able to get to Brady for a sack. So that's who you're going up against if you're the Houston Texans. You're going up against that guy. And while I do think that Tunsil might be able to be okay, I just don't know exactly about the rest of their offensive line, specifically the right tackle situation right now. They've been giving Chris Clarks a lot of playing time, and, he's not a disaster by any means, but he's definitely not someone that you would want to be a starting right tackle going up against Frank Clark if they do put him on the right side, which they will at times. So I could absolutely see the Chiefs putting Frank Clark on that right side consistently because that way they want to avoid having Tunsil be able to take him away. And then if you're Texans, you kind of have to chip him, which gives you one less person to pass the ball to. The reason why I think that Tunsil would actually be very good going up against Frank Clark and why they probably will try to avoid that matchup if you're the Chiefs is because, like, a play like this, for example, where he has a one-on-one matchup, and if you notice his assigned defender, it's going to kind of fake as though he's going to the right side of the screen real quick, but he's not going to. He's going to try to go to the inside of Tunsil, try to get around him that way, and see if he can get a sack by doing that. So as you see, he fakes it. Tunsil does move a little bit over, but then when he cuts to the inside, it could be trouble. However, watch how Tunsil is able to get his right hand basically in perfect position just instantly. That's what makes Tunsil so great, is his hands. He might have the best hands in the business. The way that he's able to seemingly just always latching on in a perfect placement. It's a real frustrating situation if you're going up against him, and it's how he's able to be so effective. Because a play like this, you're just not going to be able to actually get by him once you get to this point. I also think one of the key differences from last game going into this game is the fact that Chris Jones is now going to be healthy, whereas he actually missed that first game against the Texans. And I think that's going to be a huge difference because he's one of the best interior linemen in the NFL. He's probably the most underrated player in the NFL. I've said this a little bit now. He is elite, but he doesn't get talked about as much as he should. And him being back will be a huge difference for Kansas City. One of the things Kansas City will do is they'll have five-man rushes because that forces your center to have a one-on-one matchup. And if you line up Chris Jones with a one-on-one matchup, then you're in a bad situation. Like as you see on this play, there are going to be 5 Chiefs who are going to be rushing the passer here, all those that are circled. And so for Chris Jones, it's a one-on-one matchup against the center. And of course, one of the problems with being a center, as I always talk about, is that it's so hard to get your hands up. So watch how Chris Jones is going to get his left arm onto that Patriots' right shoulder pad as quickly as he possibly can. See how he does that? At this point, it's going to be just so difficult to do anything because you can't really push him back because how are you supposed to get your right arm around there? The only thing you can really do is try to get under his arm, but then you'd just be holding and that would be a penalty. So you're really in a bad situation, and he's so quick that he can really pull those types of things off. That's how he's able to run over and get a sack to Brady. That's what he's capable of. It's not just Clark, it's also Chris Jones that can really dominate. Now, admittedly, Jones has his work cut out for him. I mean, Nick Martin is without a doubt one of the better pass blocking centers in the NFL, so that's the bright side for Houston, but I do think that, it'll be a big time matchup. Martin will get some wins and Jones will get some wins, no doubt about it. I also think one way I can definitely see Kansas City terrorizing Houston is simply just by being creative. That's one thing I do feel like Kansas City has always done well on defense is just have creative blitz packages. And this play is a great example. It's one of my favorites of the year. What they did were first things first, they're going to have 6 guys on the line. So Mitchell Trubisky here is saying, okay, simple blocking concept. I'm just going to have everybody keep an eye on one of the 6 guys on the line because I have a halfback who can block. So just, left tackle, you take the furthest guy to the right side of the screen, and then just so on and so forth. So the halfback will be taking the guy all the way to the left side of the screen. Pretty simple. And so for Kansas City, those 2 guys will actually be dropping back into coverage. So it looks like it's just going to be a 4-man rush, meaning that the right tackle and the halfback will each go out to block those 2 Kansas City players. So, the one downside is now for Chicago, you have a halfback who's going to have to try to block Frank Clark. That's not great, but as a whole, it could be a lot worse. And it's actually going to be a lot worse because Kansas City isn't just doing this, which already is a great blitz concept because it's going to help you out, but they're also going to have a defensive back who's going to blitz. So this now means that he could potentially get completely free since there is no Bear who's in charge of looking at that guy because he's off screen right now. You can't even see him. Obviously, the Bears can, but he's far enough away that they're assuming that he won't be blitzing here. So right after the ball is snapped, both of those 2 Chicago players do what they're supposed to do, make sure they're blocking somebody, but now a defensive back is going to get completely free. Now, in fairness, he doesn't actually make the tackle, but he pushes Trubisky back enough that somebody is eventually able to run over and make the tackle. And that's what Kansas City can do just in terms of X's and O's. So not only can they beat you with talent, but they can beat you just by getting creative. And so there's a lot of work that Houston is going to have to do to make sure that that doesn't happen. I definitely think one of the key reasons Houston was able to win their first matchup was the fact that Deshaun Watson didn't get sacked a single time, which honestly, without Tyus Howard now going to be in the game and also with Chris Jones going to be in the game, it's hard for me to imagine that happening again. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. The one bright side is you do have Deshaun Watson, who is great at escaping these tackles, but also, if I am going to be honest, I do feel like an element of the reason why the Watson does get sacked so much is because of Watson. I do think that he deserves some blame. I always find it weird how some guys we make excuses for in terms of sacks and some guys we don't. I'm not saying Watson is like a problem or anything. Obviously, he's a great player. Probably he's the MVP of the Houston Texans, but one of his biggest flaws is I do feel like he sometimes struggles with avoiding sacks. Not physically, of course, but mentally. What I'm trying to say is a play like this, where this was in the Buffalo game, where at first Buffalo is actually going to have just 3 people who are on the line going to be rushing the passer. One of them will drop back into coverage, but it isn't going to be a 3-man rush. It's actually going to be a blitz, and those 2 Buffalo players are going to be rushing the passer as well. And so for Houston, you're in 5 wide here, so you only have 5 guys blocking. And considering the fact that 4 will be blocking to the right side of the center, this now means that, your center, your right guard, and your right tackle can each block somebody, but somebody else could end up getting completely free. So the second that Watson realizes this, he's probably going to have to make a throw. And so for Watson, that's actually not the end of the world. It's going to be zone coverage that he's going up against, but of course, since it's a blitz, this now means that there's one less defender who's going to be in zone coverage right here. So as long as Watson can get rid of the ball quickly, he could be in okay shape. Those are the routes that the Houston Texans receivers will be running, and one route that you could just look at on paper and say could be good is that one. It's going to be a curl route. It'll get open quickly, so that is somewhere where Watson could look if he realizes that somebody is coming through completely untouched. And so look, like right after the ball is snapped, you notice, okay, a Buffalo player does get through completely untouched, as we thought what would happen before the ball was snapped. Of course, Watson didn't think this before the ball was snapped. Watson got fooled. It does happen, but now Watson has to quickly figure out what he needs to do. One thing that bothers me a little bit is that Kenny Stills is kind of lackadaisical in the way he runs his route. If you look at him, he definitely could be cutting a little bit better, so I don't really know what's going on there. He probably just didn't think the ball was coming to him, but still, run your route out. It's the playoffs. But even with that, there's another receiver who's going to be open right over there. So Watson has options that he could try to throw to right now. He doesn't have to wait. He can make a quick decision here, but instead he's going to try to run up to the top half of the screen, see if he can run around, and it just doesn't work out, and it results in him getting sacked. Now, admittedly, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to say, well, yeah, but how many times does he do that and gain a bunch of yards or be able to make a throw deep downfield and, get a first down that way. And that's totally true. I'm not trying to discount that at all. But I'm just saying this could also play a factor. There's a downside to having a good mobile quarterback, and that's that sometimes that good mobile quarterback will get you in trouble. I am by no means saying that Watson's ability to run is a negative by any means, but what I am saying is that it sometimes does have negative impacts. I mean, sometimes you would be better off, like a play like this, just getting rid of the ball as opposed to trying to run around and gain more yards. Sometimes just gain the 3 or 4 yards. This was a second down and 9, so gaining 4 yards, creating a third down and 5, that's a big swing from that and losing 5 yards and creating a third and 14. Again, all I'm saying is that this is one of the few weaknesses that Deshaun Watson has, and just so sort of happens to play into what I'm making this video about, which is why I'm bringing it up. Trust me, I'm a big Deshaun Watson fan. I want to be very clear on that because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But, if he does something that I don't love, I'm going to call it out. That being said, he also will have some unbelievable Houdini acts where he gets out of things that we never thought he'd be able to get out of. So you take the good with the bad when it comes to Watson, but yeah, I do think that could come into play. And I think this should be a very interesting matchup to see what happens. I definitely don't expect the Houston Texans to not get sacked at all this game. I think that the Chiefs will get to Watson at least a couple of times. But if the Houston Texans can do just as good a job blocking as they did last time, then the Chiefs could be in trouble. I mean, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. But that's just my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, thanks for watching.